Hey, it's Marlene. Finally, I'm going to talk to you about the Lumix 100 to 300 millimeter lens and all the new things I've learned having to shoot differently with a telephoto lens. First, I want to just say thank you to all of you who watched my short, the little preview I made a few days ago about this lens. Some of you did not like the shorts. You do not like the vertical format. But I'm going to work with both formats, so don't worry. I'm not going to abandon the regular videos like these, so don't you worry. This is the Lumix G9 I'm using with the Lumix G100 to 300 millimeter f4 to 5.6. So something totally different for me. I'm used to shooting with short lenses, wide-angle lenses getting close to my subject. This lens, to me, feels heavy. And one thing I noticed is that it's really hard to steady the shot when you're holding the camera this way, which often I did with my skateboard shots. I found that I have to use the eyepiece viewfinder. I can hold the camera steadier, and I've always recommended putting your left hand under the lens, no matter what size, so that you can zoom instead of doing this. This is not as steady as this. Also, I set up back button focus. Now I know I've made a video on back button focus saying I'd probably never use it, but you know what? I'm eating my words. Back button focus really saves you when you're using a long lens. So back button focus, for those of you who don't know, is where you separate the focusing from the shutter press. So you can set up your AF/AE lock button on the back to do the focusing. So when you press that, it focuses, and then you can take the picture with the shutter button separately. That makes it much easier to take photos, especially of like wildlife and little birds and things like that. Also, as far as focus goes, when I had a moving subject, I tested out the tracking focus. I took some video clips as well, and I found that tracking really works great. Here's something totally new: auto ISO. Are you kidding me? Auto ISO? I never thought I'd say that out loud. But I've been putting my camera on manual, choosing my shutter speed, which if something's moving is at least 1/1000th of a second, choosing my f-stop, because with a long lens you have very shallow depth of field, even at like f11. Three things control depth of field, as you probably know if you've watched my other video on that: f-stop, how close you are to your subject, and your focal length. So in this case, focal length is playing a huge role in my depth of field. When I shoot with wide-angle lenses, I got depth of field for miles, even if I'm at f4. If I shoot this lens at f4 or f5.6, which is the widest opening at each of the ends of the focal length spectrum, then I have very shallow depth of field, especially if I'm close to my subject. Now by close, I don't mean a foot away, I mean like 10 feet away or 20 feet away. So depth of field is quite critical. So I found that shooting in manual mode, auto ISO, setting my shutter speed and setting my f-stop is the way to go, so that I'm not spending too much time fiddling with the controls. So if my shot isn't sharp enough, I increase my f-stop so that I get more depth of field. And I noticed this when shooting like birds, and you're going to see some ducks that I got on a pond. Now, along with auto ISO, I had to kind of increase my tolerance for high ISO, and I'm not used to that, especially with my wide-angle lenses. I don't typically use high ISO. I usually shoot in the daylight and bright sunshine, and typically 200, at the most 400 ISO. But with a slower lens, a longer lens, less light hitting the sensor, I've had to increase my ISO. One thing is, definitely need all 5 or 6 stops of stabilization. Put all the stabilization on if you're ever using a big lens. I don't really need stabilization with my wide-angle lenses because I can hold those lenses still even if my subject's moving. I don't need stabilization. Even at 1/1000th of a second and shooting video especially, I just found that I was moving, even with the camera right against my face. So just some things to look out for if you're using telephoto lenses. I think that just about covers the handling part. Did I say look through the viewfinder? By the way, if this video has helped you, please consider buying me a coffee. Link to that is in the video description below. And for those of you who've bought me coffees already, I just want to say thank you so much. Some of you have bought me coffees more than one time. Some of you have bought me multiple coffees. And for that, I truly thank you. Let's look at some images. So what's wrong with this lens? Well, to be honest, I did see a small amount of fringing. If I had sort of a backlit, drastic change from highlights to shadows along edges of buildings and that kind of thing. That's easily fixed though. Just use the defringer slider in Lightroom. Worked right away for me. Hardly can notice it anymore. And of course you can only see this if you're zooming in to 200% or more. Now I still want to do a video about birds in flight for you. I did do a couple of country drives, did not see any big birds flying overhead. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully I can get that soon. Perhaps I'll have to wait for the birds to fly back north for the summer. A lot of you asked on the short video I made introducing this lens, a lot of people said, why not get the 100 to 400? Well, there's several good reasons why not. First of all, I'm a casual birder. I'm a casual wildlife shooter. I don't often need the reach of a 100 to 300 plus millimeter lens. I don't shoot a lot of things that require it. This lens was very affordable compared to that other lens. Also, that other lens is super heavy. This lens is heavy enough for me. It is, let's just check the specs here, 520 grams, which is 1.15 pounds. That's enough for me in my camera bag and my shoulder and neck. Now, if the weight and the handling becomes a problem, I might end up using this more with a monopod, just to keep things steady, especially when shooting video. I'm not going to use this lens a lot. Yes, I'm a backyard birder. I have lots of activity in my yard, especially in the summer. This lens is big enough and reaches far enough, and the price is right for me. And that's all I got to say on the topic.